Have you ever felt like you're being used, mistreated, or constantly overlooked? It's a painful experience that many of us go through at some point in life. But let me remind you of something important. You are not a mistake. You were not put on this earth to be someone's emotional punching bag. You are a masterpiece, beautifully created in the image of God, with purpose and immense value. Just as God hung the stars in the sky and set the boundaries of the seas, He carefully crafted you with love, intention, and detail. The world may try to diminish your worth, and people may fail to see your true value, but God never will. When you find yourself in a situation where you're consistently disrespected, ignored, or taken for granted, you're not just enduring pain. You're allowing someone else's voice to overpower God's truth. You're believing a lie, and that lie says, "This is all I'm worth." But I'm here to tell you today that this is not what God says about you. Psalm 139:14 reminds us, "I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful." I know that full well. Just take a moment to think about that. Fearfully and wonderfully made. That means God didn't just throw you together with scraps. He designed you with purpose and love, each detail carefully planned. So when you let others treat you like you don't matter, you're letting their opinions drown out God's voice. And when you keep shrinking, adjusting, and compromising just to be accepted, you lose sight of who you are. But remember, acceptance that costs you your peace is too expensive. Love that requires you to abandon yourself is not love. Maybe you've been giving everything, hoping, praying, longing for someone to truly see you. But if they never do, maybe it's time to stop proving your worth to them. It's not selfish to honor the image of God in you. Walking away when you're not appreciated is not a sign of bitterness. It's wisdom. Even Jesus didn't chase after those who rejected Him. He loved them, yes, but He moved forward, and so must we. Sometimes, walking away doesn't mean giving up. It means stepping into your purpose. It means refusing to stay where you're broken and choosing to walk in peace. And yes, it takes courage to walk away. It takes more courage to leave a place of discomfort and pain than to stay and endure. Sometimes, the most spiritual thing you can do is to say, no more. No more explaining, no more settling, no more giving yourself away to people who can't appreciate you. God is calling you to rise up, to remember who you are, to lift your head high, walk in purpose, and embrace the truth that you are worth more than what you've been given. Walking away doesn't mean defeat. It means you are finally believing in the value God placed inside you. And when you step away from the noise, God will meet you in the silence. He will begin to restore the broken places and heal the wounds you've carried for so long. In that quiet, He will remind you that you are whole, seen, and safe. And now, as you step forward in confidence, let's talk about what happens next. If you would like me to continue or modify any part of this text further, feel free to let me know. Let's continue the journey from the realization that sometimes walking away isn't defeat, but a path to freedom. When you finally choose to step away, you're not giving up. You're choosing to embrace your worth. You're making the bold decision to stop pouring your energy into places and people that drain you, and instead, you're investing in the plan that God has for you. You're walking away not in fear, but in faith. You're saying, I trust that God has a better plan for me, and I believe in the purpose He has placed on my life. The truth is, the people who don't see your value or fail to appreciate you are not defining you. Their failure to see your worth does not diminish it. Just like Jesus faced rejection in His hometown, the people you think should support you may not always see the purpose that God has put inside you. But that doesn't change who you are, and it certainly doesn't change the calling on your life. When Jesus faced rejection in Nazareth, He didn't let it define Him. He didn't stay to prove Himself. Instead, He moved on because He knew His identity and His mission were not based on the acceptance of others. In the same way, we need to stop fighting for validation from people who don't understand our journey and start focusing on the peace that comes when we align ourselves with God's plan. Some doors must close before you can walk into the next chapter, It's not easy to let go, especially when it comes to people we love, but sometimes it's necessary for the growth and peace that God has destined for us. We must learn to leave behind the noise and walk toward the calm, toward the purpose God has set for us. And in walking away, you're not walking away from love. You're walking towards obedience. You're walking towards the truth of God's calling, which is far more valuable than the temporary comfort of staying in a place that doesn't appreciate you. When you step away, you're not losing anything that truly matters. You're gaining clarity, peace, and the confidence to walk into what God has prepared for you. Let this sink in. You are not your wounds. You are not the rejection or the dismissals you faced. You are a child of God. Your steps are ordered. And when you stop clinging to what no longer serves you, you'll realize that the best is yet to come. It's time to choose faith over fear. Faith that when you walk away from what is not serving you, God will lead you into something greater. The future He has for you is far better than what you left behind. And when you trust Him enough to step away, you'll see how beautifully He will guide you into the life He has planned for you. As you walk through this transition, know that you're walking in faith, not fear. Let go of what no longer serves you. Trust God and watch as He leads you into a season of growth, peace, and fulfillment. And with that, we move forward, knowing that what's ahead is far more rewarding than anything we leave behind. Stay with us as we continue exploring the power of walking away and the blessings that come with trusting in God's plan. Let's take a moment to pause and reflect on the profound truth we discussed earlier. Walking away isn't always a sign of defeat. Sometimes it's the most courageous thing you can do. And this leads us to a vital point. Letting go of situations that drain you isn't just about escaping pain, it's about choosing peace. When you're surrounded by people who don't value you, when you're continually treated as if your presence is a burden, you're not just enduring the pain, you're silently agreeing with it. You're unknowingly allowing the lie of worthlessness to take root in your heart. And, my friend, that is not the life God has intended for you. God never designed you to stay in places where you're being slowly destroyed, just for the sake of loyalty, love, or fear. The enemy often deceives us, whispering that staying in toxic environments somehow makes us strong. He tries to convince you that silently enduring abuse is humility, and that if you just love harder or stay longer, things will change. But that's a lie. God never asks His children to endure abuse in the name of faithfulness. He does not delight in your suffering caused by people who refuse to see you as a person of worth. Instead, He calls you out of darkness into His marvelous light. 2 Corinthians 6:17 says, "Come out from among them and be separate, says the Lord. Do not touch what is unclean, and I will receive you." That command is not meant to shackle you, it's a rescue. God wants you to be free. He wants your heart to be whole. But as long as you stay in places where your soul is starved of honor, you cannot walk in the fullness of His promises. It may seem noble to stay where you are mistreated, but God calls you to more than just tolerating the abuse. You are meant for more. You are meant to thrive. And if you're still holding on to people who treat you like you're disposable, ask yourself, are you enabling their behavior? Love without boundaries isn't love, it's enabling. When you tolerate disrespect, you teach others how to treat you. When you make excuses for cruelty, you give them permission to continue. Over time, you will lose yourself, your voice, your peace, your identity. But God is calling you to walk back to dignity, to walk back into the identity He's given you. He's calling you to rise up, to walk with purpose, with His love as your standard. Not the way people treat you. You are not meant to stay in a place that drains you. Sometimes, obedience to God looks like walking away. It may not mean that the situation is fixed, but that God is calling you out of it to protect your heart. If you ignore that call, you risk missing the healing He wants to provide. Don't let misplaced loyalty become a leash around your heart. God's love is different. It doesn't manipulate you, it doesn't degrade you, and it doesn't use you until you have nothing left. His love builds you up, it protects you, it redeems you. And when you walk with God, you'll find that you don't have to beg for what He has already made available to you. Peace, joy, love, and purpose. As we move forward, it's crucial to realize that sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is walk away, not in bitterness, but in faith, trusting that God's plan is always better than what you could have imagined. You've been told before that change is inevitable, but do you truly understand that sometimes change is God's protection in disguise? In the moments where you're surrounded by negativity, in places where your worth is overlooked, it might feel like you're fighting an uphill battle. But let me remind you, God is always guiding you toward what's best for you. And when the place you're in is constantly tearing you down, it's time to step back and reevaluate. Here's the truth. Your worth isn't up for negotiation. When you're staying in a space that diminishes you, when you feel like you're always walking on eggshells or trying to please others, you're not just enduring pain, you're agreeing to live in it. And that's not what God created you for. Think about it. We often stay in toxic places because we hope that with more love, more sacrifice, and more effort, those around us will finally see our worth. But that's not the way God works. God doesn't ask us to prove ourselves to people who refuse to see us. In fact, sometimes God removes us from situations that don't honor our value because He's preserving us for something better. Jesus is the perfect example. Even when people rejected Him, He didn't stay. Jesus didn't beg anyone to accept Him, nor did He force Himself where He wasn't wanted. Instead, He walked away with love, knowing His worth was rooted in His purpose, not in the opinions of those around Him. And that's where your freedom lies, when you realize your worth is defined by God's truth, not people's rejection. Some of you are still holding on to situations, relationships, or people that keep diminishing your light. You believe that if you just stay a little longer, they'll change. But let me tell you, sometimes God's redirection is His protection. Just like Joseph, who was rejected by his own brothers and thrown into a pit, sometimes we need to be removed from people who can't see our worth, because God has a palace waiting for us. When you're continually staying in places where your worth isn't recognized, it's not your calling. If you have to diminish yourself to be accepted, it's not your door. If you have to sacrifice your peace for the sake of others, it's not your assignment. And God didn't call you to be tolerated. He called you to shine. So stop settling for the darkness. Recognize that your presence doesn't have to be an option. Sometimes we confuse being present with fulfilling God's purpose, but your worth is not about filling a void for others. It's about standing in your truth, knowing that you deserve to be treated with respect and love, just as God intended. So, like Jesus before Pilate, stand firm in who you are. Know your worth. When others mistreat you or don't honor you, don't chase after their approval. Because when you know your identity is rooted in God, nothing can shake you. You were created to live in abundance, not survival mode. If they can't appreciate your presence, they don't deserve your loyalty. You are whole, you are worthy, and God has far more in store for you than this. As you step forward, walk away from the things, places, and people that drain you, and walk toward what God has prepared for you. That is where true peace and fulfillment lie. This is the moment to let go and walk in faith. And remember, what God has for you is greater than what you're leaving behind. You've been there, haven't you? Stuck in a place where your worth isn't recognized, where your efforts are overlooked, and where your presence is taken for granted. But what if I told you that your silence in those moments isn't a sign of defeat, but a powerful statement of self-respect and faith? You are not meant to be invisible. You were born with a voice, a calling, and a purpose. And if you find yourself in a place where these are being muffled, it's time to walk away. When you stay where you're constantly dishonored, ignored, or treated as if you're a burden, you're not just enduring pain, you're slowly agreeing with a lie. The lie that says your value is tied to their approval, that your worth is determined by their actions. But God never designed you for that. He never created you to be anyone's emotional punching bag. In fact, He designed you for greatness, for peace, for a life full of joy and purpose. And sometimes, the hardest yet most necessary thing you can do is to walk away. It takes courage, It takes strength to stop showing up for those who never showed up for you. But here's the beautiful part. God is your strength. When you let go of what doesn't value you, your hands are free to receive the blessings God has prepared for you. You don't need to hold on to things or people that drain you, hoping they'll change. Walk away with your head high, not in arrogance, but in understanding. Understand that your worth was never theirs to determine. Think about it. When God removes something from your life, it's not rejection, it's redirection. God is pulling you out of the shadows and into His light, where you are meant to thrive. Don't let guilt or the fear of being misunderstood keep you stuck in a place that was never meant for you. Sometimes, walking away is the most courageous act of love you can show yourself. Let's reflect on Jesus. He didn't force anyone to accept Him. He didn't beg. Even when His own people rejected Him, He didn't stay behind to convince them otherwise. He simply walked away, knowing His purpose was not tied to their approval. And if Jesus could walk away, so can you. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone who refuses to see it. And yes, it will hurt. Leaving will always be hard, especially when it's from those you care about or even family. But God never asked you to stay in places where you're being mistreated or misunderstood. He calls you to be free, to walk in peace and purpose. You don't need to chase people who can't appreciate you. You don't need to beg for respect from people who refuse to honor you. This is about your peace. And when you walk away, you're not walking away from love. You're walking toward obedience. Obedience to God's call on your life, to the truth that you are worth more than the treatment you've received. The enemy wants you to stay in bondage, to live in confusion, but God calls you into clarity, into freedom, into truth. When you stand in that truth, your silence becomes your strength, and your walk becomes your testimony. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is to stop explaining yourself, stop justifying your absence, and walk confidently into the life God has planned for you. When you let go of what doesn't serve you, God will begin to restore your soul. You may not see the full picture yet, but trust that this silence, this walk away, is leading you to something far greater. And with that, you begin a journey, not of defeat, but of freedom. You will no longer be held back by the opinions of others or the toxic environments you've outgrown. Instead, you'll walk toward peace, toward purpose, and toward a future that God is already preparing for you. And trust me, you'll look back one day and realize that walking away wasn't losing anything. It was gaining everything. Sometimes, walking away isn't just an act of leaving. It's an act of returning. Returning to yourself. Returning to the truth. Returning to the God who never stopped calling your name, even when you couldn't hear Him through the noise. When you walk away from those who didn't value you, you're not leaving behind something good. You're making space for something better. That space isn't empty. It's filled with peace, purpose, and the promise of restoration. The truth is, walking away from dishonor isn't a loss. It's a step toward the divine plan God has for your life. You see, it's not about what you're walking away from, but what you're walking toward. You may have spent years wondering why you couldn't get the respect you deserved, questioning your worth as others overlooked you. Maybe you gave love and got silence in return, but God sees you. He knows the hurt, the rejection, the battles you've fought in silence, and now He's calling you back to His light, back to your true identity, back to the purpose He has for you. It's time to step into the healing He's prepared for you. And the first step? Letting go of the things that tried to break you. Don't let the enemy remind you of who you used to be. Don't let him whisper the lies that kept you stuck in places that weren't meant for you. Because the truth is, when you walk away, you're not empty-handed. You are walking full of God's love, full of the truth that you are worthy, full of the quiet confidence that only comes when you know who you are in Him. So here's what I want you to know. Walking away doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're wise. It means you're walking away from emotional captivity and stepping into freedom. Freedom to be who God created you to be. Freedom to embrace the love He's always had for you. The love that never fades, never fails, and never falls short. Remember, some relationships weren't meant to last, and some doors weren't meant to stay open. When you step away, you make room for the life God has waiting for you. You are not meant to live in emotional survival mode. God has called you to live in abundance. And here's the beautiful part. When you make the choice to walk away from what doesn't honor you, God walks with you. He never leaves you, never forsakes you, and He is right there, leading you into the next chapter. You're walking into healing. You're walking into wholeness. You're walking into everything God has already prepared for you. As you take that step, trust that God is right there with you, not just watching, but walking beside you, guiding you, and leading you toward the future He's been preparing. Your story isn't finished, and neither is your healing. You're walking away, yes, but you're also walking towards something far greater than you ever imagined. So walk, my friend. Walk in the peace, the purpose, and the truth of who God has called you to be. You are never alone in that walk, and every step brings you closer to His promises. And when you walk away from what doesn't honor your worth, you walk right into the arms of the one who always has.